Yeah, no, I was totally fooling myself. Our little base pieces will absolutely have to recess. Even if these sat flush with the body, they may be slightly too high. Slightly. I mean, that's probably decent action, but so these guys will have to recess. That's going to be a whole nother headache. What I did, I took a straight edge against the neck. We draw the lines for the blank. And then 1/8 of an inch inside of those, we put our E strings. And then we can use the string spacing ruler to find spacing, mark the other 4 strings, draw them out, and then, knowing where the strings are supposed to go, okay, here's 25 and 27, right there. Now, 25 is going to be pretty damn close to 25. It's going to be just slightly behind it, and 27 will probably be, I don't know, 3/16, a quarter behind, something. I don't know. It's going to be a little behind your theoretical scale length. But, here I'm looking. There's a screw that goes through that guy into that middle hole to lock down where it actually sits. That's your forward and backward adjustment for intonation. So it looks like with this guy sitting just a little bit behind the theoretical scale length, this can sit just slightly ahead of or right on the line of the theoretical, which gives us the most room to slide back what should be more than we need, I would hope. So I think it's safe to have that kind of placement all the way down. I mean, this is the one that would need to go back the furthest anyway. So as it turns out, looking at the screw holes from that spot, I marked my little screw holes. That's almost exactly a 1/4 inch behind the theoretical scale length. So did the same thing over here. Drew parallels, and we should have placement for where these guys all need to go. Now, how in the hell I'm going to recess them at least a 1/4 inch, I don't know. And I believe if we go that much, if I went down that much, no biggie. But if we recess that whole thing, then we will have to make a recess for the whole thing a little bit. We know we need to recess the base, and I know I need to recess more than just the base. Okay. We'll get to the details of that in a minute. What I wound up doing was building me a little template, just so it's got to be with my 1/4 inch cutter. This needs to be wider than a 1/4 inch, so I just set it up so that I could make this little guy, which is pretty well damn perfect. Tiny, tiny, tiny wiggle forward and back, no biggie. It's absolutely perfect. But this leaves, I specifically cut to just the depth of the lowest part of that. So with it that way, this guy sits just the tiniest bit above. I don't know if you can see that. Which is too much. These fuckers are kind of tall. As is, that puts the saddle at the lowest possible point a little more than 3/8. More like 7/16. That's a bit. So I couldn't help but think if we could recess deeper, then we need, of course, this recess. And one of the things I had been concerned about with these guys was getting them placed exactly perfectly, you know, with a drill bit that will kind of wander when you try to find the exact screw points. With this, I can put the template exactly in place, clamp the damn thing down, and have it go nowhere, and then we're safe to route the little recess for it. It'll fit in there perfectly. No muss, no fuss. Problem solved. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be cool. I'm thinking we need another template for this, except this time with a bull nose. What I had planned to do, take this template, cut our little slot into this thing, and then build a template for the top part over that. And the best I can tell, I'm just looking at maximum possible travel for this thing. At as far forward as it can go, we're looking at an extra 3/4 of an inch in front of the base piece. At the furthest back, I looked at, the end of this guy, which isn't going to matter. Something will get cut off underneath that. But just for the hell of it, we're looking at 1.25 inches past. Okay, so now this time we won't have any side travel. It's just going to be a straight line, because this bit is a 1/2 inch wide, which is slightly larger than our bridge piece, so perfect, I think. So we will need to go, I'm thinking this time the center of the bit will go that 3/4 of an inch and 1.25 inches. That's where I am at the moment. That's what's going through my head here. That's what I think we need to do. So I was going to go ahead and cut the slot, and then we'll start planning out our little rails. This time from the center of the bit, not the edge of the bit, the center of the bit, to the edge of the base is 1.75 inches, I think. Yep. Okay, that's right. That's right. Yep, okay. I won't bore you with how I came up with the lines that I've got, but those lines are going to be right. So, I'm going to cut me some pieces and flatten an edge on each one of them so they're ready to tack down on here. Alright, I feel bad that some of this didn't get recorded. But yeah, I didn't know how much would, be useful or, worth watching. Okay, our stuff fits pretty awesome. Yeah. I did discover, of course, the knurled part of the thumb screw part is a little bigger than the rest of it, so I did have to open that up a little bit more. The way this is right now, I think it's a little too low. See, and here's something I'm terrified of. There's a pretty tight range of saddle adjustment here. That is about as low as it'll go. It will go slightly lower, but not where the saddle is parallel with the piece. So effectively that's the lowest point, and the highest point is not a whole lot higher. So we need to hit lowest possible action we could want at the lowest point. Shit, you know. Unless there's something about this piece that I don't know that, you know, would make it more adjustable, but I don't think that's the case. I think that's what you got. So we have to be really precise in how deep we recess. I need to consolidate thoughts. I'm not even sure I have thoughts, much less, you know, be able to articulate them at the moment. But let's try. If this was just sitting right there, which means this guy was recessed, at least to that point, then the saddle is, I think, a little too high. Well, definitely too high. It would be some fairly high action. Maybe in the middle of the radius it would be alright. Kind of hard to tell, but it's pretty damn high for the edges. So realistically, I think the bridge piece itself needs to be recessed a little. A 1/16th, maybe? I'm a little concerned on being able to nail depth absolutely perfectly the first time, and it's kind of hard to do when I don't know for certain what that depth needs to be. So I need to try to find a way to be extra precise in how we calculate that, because I want to be able to plop our templates in place, do our routes, place it, and walk away. Because we're not going to really have a whole lot of awesome means for adjusting after cuts are made and templates moved. It would be very difficult to get it back in place. That worked pretty damn well, actually. In any event, I don't believe I'm ready to pull the trigger and try it right now. I need to double check depth. But it's kind of hard to tell exactly how high a fret is, especially in the center of the radius off of that body. Okay, I just did a successful test trying to plan for depth. Our templates are fucking spot on. That is the maximum forward and the maximum back. Yeah. I've been just going a little deeper on the back side just so there's room. That, of course, will be cut away in some spectacularly ugly fashion. I don't know how we're doing that yet, but that'll all go away so you actually have access to the thumb screws. Okay, here's what I did. I took my calipers and I set it so that we were not on the edge of the fret, but a little above it. I mean, like the lowest action I can imagine wanting to get a a depth. And then looking at the full assembly from saddle down, I looked at where that depth was, and on this guy it just happens to be ever so slightly higher, just a little bit. Well, alright, we need to sink just a little bit deeper than the height of this guy, just the tiniest bit. Okay, and then I just guessing how deep we needed to go for the outer one. I just looked at the depth of the inside and added that onto depth of the template, and seems to be just about right. Because actually, I mean, you want that to be just ever so slightly deeper than the radius in this thing, so that it actually sits on the base and not, yeah. But so as it turns out, that works out pretty well. So I think, based on fret height at different places, we can do what we got to do. And I can't help but think, since we got full control over it, it might be good to route those at a radiused depth. So that's what I'm going to try to do, I think. Okay, I was looking at the middle of the fret, and it looked like our depth came down to just a little bit inside of this edge. So, I mean, it makes sense. Not a huge difference, just a little bit. So, we got our bit set to that depth, so we're going to test it out and see what happens. And I learned last time, you can get sawdust packed in the corner between our little guides and the platform, and that will make you route just a little shorter the pocket that you need. So sometimes enough that it's hard to make it fit, which is no bueno. Yep, it's raised just a little bit above. Not this one. This one's easy. Just needs to be slightly deeper than the bottom. Slightly deeper than that. Somehow that seems like too much. Alright, we're going to do a little test with 3 in line, following basically the spacing that we're going to need on the actual piece. I measured how deep or how high I want the string to sit on the, like a low E, well, an E. Alright, and from the saddle, we're going just a little bit inside, a little bit deeper than, God, how do I say that? We're sinking a little bit deeper than this is tall, the base. So, with my template material, plus this, I can see we are a little bit deeper than the base. Just a little. So, bit inside it. That's exactly what we wanted. in. Gets us basically to the depth. And I already know the middle strings, we need to just barely not sink it. Well, they are cleanly in line. I'm going to put a couple more of these together so we can put them in place and see what they look like together, and then we can measure. Okay. Apparently, I didn't look at each one of these individually. I assumed they were, all made the same. So as we get into the weeds on how exactly deep to recess these, I had noticed some of these, the saddle piece didn't screw down quite as far as others. So I got to thinking, alright, well maybe those are sized different so that it's actually compensated for a radius. Maybe, yeah. And I gave them way too much credit. No, it's just some of them are shittily enough made that it makes it hard for that little thing to screw down as far as it's supposed to. And now that I just dropped that motherfucker in the floor. Whew. Okay, make things even better. One of these little bastards isn't even cut. It hasn't been machined to be a saddle at all. Like these. The rest of them. So, I guess I'm going to have to try to do something to make it saddle-y. Okay. Thanks for joining me. If you like what we're doing, if you're digging it, like and subscribe. Catch you next time.